for some really crappy housing that they had out on the Pickering Airport site. And they were ordered by the municipality, these are all shit units, demolish them all, get them out of here, they're a danger to the public. They tried, board said, no, you should clearly evidence that you're in breach. Denied all of the evictions, they sent it to the Court of Appeal, the Divisional Court. Divisional Court said, wrong. If the termination is going to cure the breach, you have to grant it. So I use that one. I hate printing it because it's a big one, but you got to print it 3 times. But I use it, and I've used it successfully for many landlords.
So what's the best course of action? Is the
Initiate demolition, apply for your permits. Because if it's in as bad a state as it is, city's going to give you your permits. They're not going to hold you back on that. They don't want these things. They're a liability to the city as much as to your client. So do it and then file it. All of that notice has to be articulated is that, you know, the landlord intends to demolish the property, the landlord's applied for the permits. By the time you get to a hearing, you're going to have your permits. And then there's no defense to that kind of an application. And there's no way to come back either, because under most of the, what they call rent evictions, because we're evil people, the rent eviction proceedings allow tenants to come back status quo. But now how does that encourage you to pour millions of dollars into your property when your deadbeat tenant's going to come back in at below market value rent? Makes no sense. Right, so, however, if your renovations are going to take a year or more, historically, they'll go and entrench somewhere else. Historically, we can keep them out of it. Maybe as the process goes forward, maybe we buy that right off of them for some nominal, maybe a month or 2 rent compensation, even though we don't have to. Here we go, sweeten the deal. And then I would change the nature of that order when I'm at a hearing. The parties agree on consent. This is termination by agreement, not by notice.
Okay.
And here's the agreement, and now you're free to do whatever the hell you want. Or your renovations are going to take so long. I have 12 right now that are active. These are substantial. We're talking underpinning, not a lightweight job. That's a very lengthy project. They're building new additions onto the goddamn thing. The units will not exist as they exist today. None of you are coming back. Might sound like I'm mean, I'm not. I'm actually a very fair person in my dealings, but I'm there for a reason. And I'm at all times there to make the scary people go away. So, and I sleep perfectly fine.
Well, I mean, they're gonna screw with you.
I'm there for a reason. I don't have, they all call me all kinds of names and the duty council fill their heads full of all kinds of crap. I let them, because you know what, it only helps me. Because they tell them, tenant, that's Mr. Smith, he's mean, he's heartless, he's soulless, he doesn't care about you. Okay. If that's what you want them to believe, that's, it works for me. It's just gonna expedite things, that's all right. So, you know, that's the way to approach it. But, you know, these are the real, that's a primary areas. But let's move on, before we go off onto something else, let's talk about lease agreements, since some of you are indicating you do that. Another generous, liberal, fuck you gift on the way as we're going out the door is the really crappy standardized lease form they imposed upon us.
No kidding.
They did not seek consultations from stakeholders.
That's obvious.
Yeah, it's a dreadful document.
It is.
And it's so poor, my cats probably could write a better lease agreement than that. So what I'm telling the people to do as a cure, they at least left the back door open and says we can attach schedules to it. In that aim, I suggest that you use their dumb document as your frontage.
You have
Attach to it Schedule A, at least like mine, which is designed for you, not them. And then attach to it the propaganda material as Schedule B, and most of you probably don't even know what that is.
Yeah, the
Under Section 11, that came out in 2007, you're obligated to give the tenant an FYI document that says, here's where you get to go and get all your rights, and here are all your rights, and oh, by the way, pay your goddamn rent and don't change the locks because we'll take issue with you when you do that. And you have to give it. I thought when I first saw it, we'd see a lot more problems from that. It hasn't morphed into as many, I've seen it a handful of times in tenant applications. Just dot your i's, cross your t's, attach it as an Schedule B to all your leases, period. That way, I make them sign up. Mine says, not only do you get a copy, I also got a copy of the propaganda document.
Yeah, so if you don't give them the.
Propaganda document.
Yeah, sure. And can they not pay you rent?
No,
Okay,
but if you don't give them the standardized lease form, they can stop paying you rent.
yeah.
And also, here's another thing that lots of landlords don't seem to know. Section 12, used to be Section 8 under the TPA, but Section 12 under the RTA says any lease agreement that's entered into on or after the day the law came into effect, that fails to include an address for the landlord for the purpose of serving documents and notices to, your right to collect rent is suspended. Their obligation to pay your rent is suspended until you cure this. So, doesn't say has to be your address, your home address, because I like to say a serving a tenant with your Sunday dinner is a really truly crappy side dish, because it is.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be your workplace address, because I get calls from employers that say, if that goddamn tenant shows up here one more time, your client's out of a job. So, what's the cure? Post office address. Your privacy is intact. They can go and be monkey on a camera for all they like, and we'll all enjoy the video at a later date. And you've complied with the requirements of the Act. And I have case decisions with my name on that say that.
I'm seeing a lot of agents using that standard agreement rather than an offer to lease.
Well, the offers to lease, actually, there is case law that says the offers are not a lease agreement. But that's why I'm saying to you, use the standardized form because it's mandatory as of last year. And I'll tell you that we saw problems within 11 days. We saw problems with that lease agreement. That's how quickly that went out.
Because the other thing as an agent, if I'm using that as an offer to lease, I'm also doing that for a landlord, and that's really their position. And I'm kind of as a broker that has to answer for this.
Potentially. But that's why you should be doing a two-step process. The tender of this offer agrees that they will enter into the standard form of a lease upon acceptance.
Okay, yeah.
That's the way to handle that. And then, like I said, use the garbage document, but back it with real documents that have meaning, a real lease agreement. I spend time, I'm a 22-year practitioner. I live this law 24/7, 365 days a year, and have done so for 22 years. I read case law every single day, regardless of where I am on the planet. I live this law. So when I got my stakeholder package in 2006, I spent my Christmas break, because I'm a fool, reworking my lease package to bring it up to compliance with what I was now reading. I was going to have to, including the propaganda document. So that became an attachment immediately.
Where can we find
The propaganda document? You can ask them at the board. I also have it as a PDF. I can just send it to you. It's part of the package that I retail, has a comprehensive rental application that has a trigger in it that was my own little trickery on tenants. Give up my Christmas for 2006. All right, tenants, we're gonna play the game with you.
How do we get that?
You send me an email with a request, and I send it to you electronically, and you send me an email for transfer for $56.50, and it's done.
Awesome, thank you.
So, when I was reworking everything, my baseline, I get up every day, I know one thing in my life to be true. They're all lying, okay? That's how we start. And we work forward from there, so that's a good place to begin.
Good start.
So, I figure, well,
Wouldn't be a dispute.
that's right. If they're gonna lie, maybe I should play the game too. So in my rental application is a statement that says, tenant, if any of your information is found to be false, we're gonna give you back your deposit less what it costs us to find that out. And here's what happens. See, tenants, they think they're smarter than everybody. And they just can't wait to tell you that they know more about the law than you do. And they say, oh, they can't do that. Now, the honeymoon's over. Now, you see them in the true light for what they really are. Because it's all lovey, lovey, lovey when they're trying to get your asset. But the second the shine comes off of that puppy, Now you can say, that's okay, tenant. We're just accepting applications today. We're gonna get back to the person we have approved. And in your mind, you could be saying to yourself, and it'll never be you. A little trickery, but I get a lot of thank you cards that say, thank you, that saved me yet again. Then my lease agreement is designed from your perspective as landlords or to protect the landlord. I don't care about tenants. I care about you. So I even have things in there that when I was a tenant, I would be prohibited from doing. So I build ornamental gardens as a way of decompressing from the stress of evicting tenants every day. And I get that stress on a monthly basis, so that's stressful. So I build water features as part of my ornamental gardens. But in my lease agreement, such things are prohibited. Because I did a case a whole bunch of years ago. Tenant installs a pool, throws the garden hose in it, burns through $18,000 of water in a 2-month period of time.
Wow.
Did massive damage to the property. Client says, I'm gonna appeal that. So that's an actual read. You're not getting anywhere with that. Tenant's attitude was, what do I care? Utilities are included. No, dumbass. Utilities are ordinary reasonable usage is included. What that was abuse. If you had 10 cents to rub together, I would take you somewhere and demonstrate that to you. But there's nothing to chase them because they don't have any money. So I prohibit such things. No installation of water features of any kind unless I give you my express written consent, and that consent's going to require your agreement to pay for any damage that comes from it and to pay for any costs that arise from the usage of it.
But still, if they don't have any money,
Well, that's where screening the crap out of them comes into place, sir. And so I agree. In 2002, again, the Liberal government interfered with your ability to properly screen tenants with a privacy commission decision. So at the time, I was a subscriber to buying board data. I get a submission on a weekly basis, tell me every single application in the province of Ontario. And I was able to use that to write to you and say, landlord, I see you have a problem. Maybe you need some help. Probably you need some help. Another paralegal wanted it. He wanted a custom version, and they told him, piss off, we're not doing custom versions, we're doing a standardized version. He applied to the Privacy Commission, but then when he had an opportunity to make a submission, he didn't, because he's an idiot. He's also no longer in the field because, well, apparently he's a pedophile, but putting that aside, he was an idiot. So at the time, the Liberal government seized the day again, and they're the only ones who made a submission to the Privacy Commission and said, ooh, that's gonna be bad for tenants. And of course, they ruled it and took it away from us. We had 3 days' notice. Bit Media and Rent Check and others like a brick. Dismantle all your databases, get rid. They're not lawful anymore. I appealed that decision. It's been 2 years in a very aggressive appeal to the Privacy Commission. I finally got fed up, and I wrote them a threatening letter, which I get in trouble for with the Law Society today because, well, I'm not allowed to write things like that. But I wrote a letter that said, either you give me my goddamn decision, or I'm going to gather all those people I've written to you every single month for the last 24 months and turn it into a giant class action lawsuit and sue you into fucking oblivion for sucking taxpayers' money out the window. I got my decision a week later, and they restored my right of access to that data. Less the tenant's name, less the unit number. Didn't matter, I could still do reverse searches using my database. I had quite enjoyment of that until 2008, 9. Then they say, oh, we've changed our software, it no longer facilitates that ability to do that. A client retained me to appeal it again. Was a little too successful on that round. We got the Privacy Commission to waive the fee entirely. I didn't ask for that. I would have paid them the fee. I didn't have a problem with the fee. I just wanted my client's access restored. They threatened to appeal it. We went to mediation. Against my advice, my client accepted an extortionist deal at a very high rate to buy the data. Then he's since abandoned it because it was extortion. I put it in writing, something like that. It was against my principles. But in the interim, what happened is last year, the Toronto Star took the Landlord and Tenant Board to task and took their case to the Superior Court. and said, this is unconstitutional. This cloak and secrecy thing, it's unconstitutional. And they were right. And the court has ordered that they restore access within 1 year. Well, guess what? The board says, screw you, we're not gonna do it. So they're gonna have to go back and have them found to be in contempt of court because that date expired back in May. So there's gonna be another fight. I'm probably gonna put counsel for the Toronto Star on notice that the board says, say we don't care. And take them back, pound them, give them a good beating. Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions, and I'm changing direction here, but I have a burning question I wanted to ask somebody like you
Okay.
for a long time. So I own multiple units myself as a landlord, great experience, it's all good.
Okay.
Several years ago, my lawyer gave me a clause that I've put in all leases,
Okay.
but I don't know if I can get away with it in
Let's
the
hear
new
it.
lease. That has worked brilliantly. So let's say the real market rent is $1,500. I write the lease at $1,800, and I have a clause that says, provided the tenant complies with the terms of the lease, which includes not smoking, no pets, which we know they can do, they get a good tenant rebate every month of $300 a month. In the event they choose to smoke or have a pet, or whatever other terms of the lease that they might break, it reverts to the proper rent, which is the
Which is
$1,800.
very dangerous to play with that, but if you're gonna insist upon doing that, call it a credit. Because I'll tell you what happens, some clients get it in their heads, tenants could become potentially a good employee. Wrong, cheers. It could become a good employee. They say, tenant, if you shovel the snow, cut the grass, I'll give you a break in your rent. So they reduce the rent. Here's what happens. Tenant goes 13 months on that reduced rent, then turns around and says, screw you. Because I've now just successfully reduced my rent. And there's nothing you can do about it. Because you didn't call it a credit, call it a reduction. And that's, in essence, what
Okay.
you're doing.
So
And I
I
would
should
be
call it
concerned.
credit,
One word
Right.
change.
okay? Because
Yeah.
it's
You're gonna
amazing,
get
the
stung.
power of it has been.
You're gonna
very-
get stung, that's what's gonna happen. Because what'll happen is the second you try to go back to that higher rent, they're gonna call it an illegal rent increase. And they're gonna be successful. They're gonna be 100% successful,
But not if I've called it a credit.
not if you call it a credit.
And even though it's a credit for not doing
Provided that
something
you're
that the law
doing what
gives them
we
the.
agreed, cutting the grass, shoveling the snow, you have
But,
a credit.
but specifically when it comes to no smoking, no
You
pets.
can have no smoking, and that can be enforceable. I've evicted
Oh.
tenants for that.
No
It
pets.
should be in your initial advertisement.
Yeah.
It has to be, I have my version's a no smoking version, even though I'm a smoker. And prohibiting things that I would do. But, I'm me, whatever. You're you, tenant, that's why I'm stopping you from doing that, because you're an animal. But, you can have it. If it's there, the board will give me termination on it.
It's so
So
funny.
then my second question I have for you, you obviously can't represent every landlord and realtor in Ontario.
No, but I have a very tight network, but I'm considered the top of the food chain, let's be realistic.
Yeah.
I'm at a level that evicts lawyers.
So where do we, if we have tenant, clients, landlords, or somebody selling their rental property, or somebody that's entering into a lease, where do we send them? I'm in Collingwood, for
We're in
example, I'm
Simcoe
not in Toronto.
Yeah, I have, like I said, I have a tight colleagues that are established in their skill sets. Many of them I have mentored personally over the course of the last 22 years. If I can't do it, I will send you to somebody who can. So previously, up until last year really, I was covering from St. Catharines to Kitchener and Guelph, as far up as Bracebridge to Whitby and everything in between. Okay, well, I'm sick to death of the drive, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not getting any younger, and that's annoying. I, as of last year, began a reduction program, and I've changed my boundaries to Hamilton, to Newmarket, to Whitby, everything in between. I have colleagues in St. Catharines I can send you to. I have skilled colleagues in Kitchener and Guelph that I can send you to.
Our
I
problem
have
is Simcoe
skilled colleagues
County,
in Barrie and Bracebridge that I can send you to.
our problem is turnaround time. We can't even get a call back for 3 or 4 weeks.
That's not,
Can't
no,
wait.
that's not,
It's
no,
not acceptable.
the people that I'm talking about, those of us who are good at this job,
These are the top.
I live on my phone. Ma'am, I walk out of a hearing and I'm returning calls while I'm on the road. That's what hands-free was intended for. I call people back same day. time is of the essence. Those of us who are good at this job actually get that.
Yeah. So your recommendation would be that we always send our clients to a professional to have their
Yes.
leases
Yeah,
done, their
I
terminations
agree.
done.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Sell
Everything.
houses.
You want to keep your exposure
I
down.
agree.
And if you're going to screen that tenant for that client, you better be backing up and printing your proof that you did due diligence. Because if you didn't,
You are.
the Court of Appeal case law that I brought in from BC, it does say I can hit you for the maximum. And I'll tell you what'll happen. That's a negligence claim. I sue you and your broker.
Right.
And you are now obligated to put your insurer on notice. Your insurer's not gonna fight with me. They're gonna come and say, Mr. Smith, how much is it gonna cost to make you and your client go away now?
Mhm.
I'm gonna say, there's the number.
Mhm.
And then they're gonna pound you.
Mhm.
No,
And your premiums are either gonna go up or they're gonna cancel outright.
What's the cost for you to do a lease?
My package is $56.50. It's a preset.
Okay.
You know, I haven't had to amend, we'll see what happens when the next legislation comes out. I'll probably have to forfeit another Christmas break. But I'll cross that bridge when that finally happens.
What do you mean when you say your package is 50? I lost you on that.
I
So
charge
you send them-
$56.50 as a licensing fee to use my lease agreement, but you can use it
Oh, I
only
see.
on your own property. So you cannot buy this and then use it on all your clients. Your client has to come to me. That's your agreement. My
So you're not
copyright is my
complete-
copyright. You have to send them to me, they buy a licensing user use, and they get to use it on their property.
So that you're not completing a lease agreement for them, you're giving them the template?
I'm giving them a template that is
Okay.
very comprehensive. It comes with instructions to tell you how to, you know, tenancies come in all different shapes and sizes, condo, whatever, you know, single family dwelling, whatever. So I made the last model as flexible as possible and I explained to you how to operate that. So you have, for example, let's take utilities. 3 choices, pick the one that suits you best, delete the other 2, the whole thing moves up. Parking, 3 choices,
Very user friendly.
very user-friendly. Delete the other 2, it moves up. The language is intended to protect you. And then if you have some funky clause you think you want to put in, I encourage you to call me or write to me and say, I want to put this clause in, because I just caught somebody who amended my lease, and I'm trying to deal with their mess right now. And I'm like, you did a little Perry Masonizing. That's my nickname for when people without a clue think they have one, put pen to paper and try to create a legal instrument that's
You
enforceable.
have to explain to some of the young people who Perry Mason is.
Okay, good point. I guess I'm showing my age now.
Those days, no.
Most of us.
Oh, yeah, majority of the room know
Yes, we
Perry
do.
Mason.
Yeah,
Kevin's sitting there.
but they bring the written clauses in,
Oh, you
including fines and shit like that. I'm like, landlord, are you completely insane? What are you thinking? This section of the act, anything in a lease agreement contrary to me the law, void. Now you've told your tenant you don't have a clue.
In the past, I'm not doing it anymore, obviously. I've been a member of Rent Check,
Yes, and you should be.
which gives me their tribunal history, employment.
Well, they used to. We don't
Not
have that
anymore,
data back
no,
yet.
yeah.
John's waiting. Rent Check are the ones who actually brought me out of labor law into residential tenancy law 22 years ago.
Okay. So I get the credit check, I get everything from there.
Yep,
I pass that documentation, and the pre-lease form, the application form, has the potential tenant is authorizing me to do that.
yes,
Right, so I have all the rights to do that. But basically, I've been getting as much information as I can,
absolutely.
and then giving that information to the prospective landlord, to the landlord,
Yes,
who then makes the decision.
yes. But another thing you should be doing as well is scrutinizing every piece of information in that application.
Yes.
So where they say, this is my former address and this is my landlord, you as realtors have access to databases that you can look that up and see if that's true.
Yeah.
And see if that contact information is true, because I find often tenants will throw a number in there, it's to one of their idiot friends so that they can try and lie for them.
Okay.
So I believe nothing,
When I call their references,
yeah.
I ask them, who else do they know that I can talk to?
Well, there's that, but again,
At least you get one away from the
you
preset.
gotta scrutinize everything, same thing with employment.
Yes.
You know, I did a case 2 years ago. It took me actually less than 2 minutes to deem all of the information the tenant provided was false. And I said to the landlord, it cost her $10,000, by the way. I said, you know, what kind of level of scrutiny did you apply to this? She said, well, they gave a reference letter, and, you know, I thought that was sufficient. I said, okay, well, let's look into that. The reference letter is called Travelodge Demolition. That doesn't seem like a real company to me. Because it's a hotel. And the numbers don't go anywhere. And there is no such company. And you can Google it and find that out. Less than 2 minutes. Effort. If you're not going to put the effort in, you're going to run the risk. So, you know, things like that. There's lots of different ways to catch these things. You know, listen carefully when you're talking to these tenants. Because I believe they all tell you in advance, I'm going to be a giant pain in your ass, and I'll screw you over every way I can. And they tell you, they give you lots of clues. Oh, my landlord was such a bad landlord, never fixed anything.
Mm-hmm.
Bells should be going off in your head.
All the time.
Absolutely.
Nuisance, totally. Listen to what they say. They're not stupid, they actually do tell you.
So the other question, for the 5650, I'm a landlord, I buy
You get
a package from
you
you.
get my rental application.
How do I get the credit history? How
No,
do I
you
go
do, stay with Rent Check, that's what they're there for.
Okay.
I would have referred you to them anyways.
about it?
I'm loyal, you know, they brought me in here, they made me the monster that I am, or they contributed to that. I already was.
Yeah,
That.
licensed
I
to be the
I came from labor, and I started my career by beating up 7 corrupt churches and daycares. And the last one, I got to turn them over to RevCam for tax evasion and tax fraud for $7 million, and they seized all their personal assets because they weren't really a corporation, they failed to do that. As a fun guy at that party. I got 2 priests for the price of 1 at that party.
The other thing I've done is, the few rentals I've done, I meet the tenant at where they live now.
Yes.
Okay.